Hi. Perhaps the most endearing thing about Jesus' theology, whether you believe that Jesus is God or not, nevertheless, the concept that we should do unto others as we would like to have done to ourselves is a kind of revolutionary concept, and so revolutionary that it doesn't even work all that well these days, even among Christians. Thus, the more different someone is ourselves, the harder it is for us to empathize with them. So we have trouble with immigrants. These people are coming here from other countries and so on, and we don't quite appreciate, I guess, what they have to go through to get here, not only in terms of uprooting their lives and possible torture and stuff, how terrible their lives were that they're willing to uproot themselves and go thousands of miles just for a chance for a better life. And understanding that, of course, it makes it harder to say no to them. And the subject, however, of today's poem and short story has to do with aging. We have a trouble empathizing with people who are different ages from ourselves, different age groups. So we have trouble maybe understanding kids when we're older adults, particularly. Um, Younger adults have trouble understanding the aged and appreciating what they're necessarily going through because it's completely foreign to them. You don't truly appreciate aging, for example, until you get older. And then you're able to see from a particular perspective. Nevertheless, it does not harm for people at whatever age they are to become more understanding of one another in terms of their age, in terms of their differences, and so on. And aging in particular, in a lot of societies, of course, uh, the elderly are treated with great respect and often serve on councils and are sought their advice because of their greater experience, etc., etc. But not so much in this country. In this country, we kind of shove them off into homes and forget about them. This is a country based on youth, after all, right? So this is actually the topic of the two units I want to share with you today. One of them is my favorite poem. It's by Edward Arlington Robinson, and it's called Mr. Flood's Party. Old Eben Flood, climbing alone one night over the hill between the town below and the forsaken upland hermitage that held as much as he should ever know on earth again of home, paused warily. The road was his, with not a native near, and Eben, having leisure, said aloud, for no man else in Tilbury Town to hear, "Well, Mr. Flood, we have the harvest moon again, and we may not have many more. The bird is on the wing, the poet says, and you and I have said it here before. Drink to the bird." He raised up to the light the jug that he had gone so far to fill, and answered huskily, "Well, Mr. Flood, since you propose it, I believe I will." Alone, as if enduring to the end, a valiant armor of scarred hopes outworn, he stood there in the middle of the road, like Roland's ghost winding a silent horn. Below him, in the town among the trees, where friends of other days had honored him, a phantom salutation of the dead rang thinly till old Eben's eyes were dim. Then, as a mother lays her sleeping child down tenderly, fearing it may awake, he set the jug down slowly at his feet, with trembling care, knowing that most things break. and only when assured that on firm earth it stood, as the uncertain lives of men assuredly did not, he paced away, and with his hand extended, paused again. "Well, Mr. Flood, we have not met like this in a long time, and many a change has come to both of us. I fear, since last it was we had a drop together. Welcome home!" Convivially returning with himself, again he raised the jug up to the light, and with an acquiescent quaver said, "Well, Mr. Flood, if you insist, I might." "Only a very little, Mr. Flood. For old lang syne. No more, sir, that will do." So for the time, apparently it did. And Eben evidently thought so too. For soon, amid the silver loneliness of night, he lifted up his voice and sang, secure with only 2 moons listening, until the whole harmonious landscape rang. For old lang syne. The weary throat gave out, the last word wavered, and the song being done, he raised again the jug regretfully, and shook his head, and was again alone. There was not much that was ahead of him, and there was nothing in the town below, where strangers would have shut the many doors that many friends had opened long ago. One of the sad things, I guess, about getting older is that the longer you live, the more people you knew die off. And so you're left more alone. And particularly, of course, when those in the younger generation are not particularly susceptible to your friendship, I guess. At any rate, along a similar vein, I have a story that I wrote. It's a shame what they're doing to Archie Johnson. Early that morning, the old man began his march, pushing his walker ahead of him. Archie began to croon, "I can ride sonnet about my Easter bonnet." As he passed, several residents snickered, and a few of the nurses appeared a bit dismayed. "Don't worry, ladies. I'm not rich enough to be eccentric. I'm just plain nuts." "Your son's in the community parlor, Archie," said Nurse Danker. "Thanks, Nurse Dinkle. That's Danker, Archie. That's what I said," the old man retorted. It was a shame what they were going to do to Archie Johnson. They were about to celebrate his 80th birthday. Moreover, this was the 10th anniversary of his enrollment at the Serenity Lake Retirement Community. It was enough to make a guy burst. Maybe later they'd spoon feed him some cake. Wasn't that yummy, Archie? Oh, I hope we get to play bingo or maybe make crafts. I think I'm gonna puke, thought Archie. Crabby? Of course he was crabby. Didn't he have a right to be? Earlier that morning, his son, Jed, was meeting with the home administrator. She was filling him in on all the problems his dear old dad was causing. "Well, Mr. Johnson, as you know, your dad has been here for quite some time now." "Yes, and I would think you would have become accustomed to his foibles by now," Johnson interrupted. "Yes, but of late," Mrs. Clark noted as she fiddled with the pen, "he has become increasingly difficult to deal with." "Well, what do you mean? Isn't it your mission to deal with those difficulties?" "What I'm talking about, Mr. Johnson, is that there has been a noticeable change in your father's demeanor. In fact, he has become, well, disruptive, to the point that we are just a bit concerned about resident morale. Not that we want to exaggerate the problem, we were just hoping that you might intercede and help your father to a more positive frame of mind." Let me get this straight. You think I can talk my father into a better frame of mind? Of course, Mr. Johnson, we are not abrogating our responsibility. We were just hoping to enlist your cooperation. I see. I'll do what I can. I can't guarantee anything. Well, naturally, we are appreciative of anything you can do. When Archie finally arrived at the community parlor, his son rose to greet him. Hi, Dad. How's everything? Here, sit down. Take a breather. The old man, somewhat feebly, drops into the waiting armchair. Well, Dad, it's a big day, huh? Yeah, I just hope the excitement doesn't kill me, said Archie. Are you okay, Dad? Just the usual aches and pains. Thanks for asking. Well, what do you mean by that? Well, son, what do you think? I don't know. That's why I asked. Look, what difference does it make? Said Archie excitedly. Dad, Mrs. Clark told me that you've developed a bad attitude. Why should I give a damn? Archie demanded. Don't I have a right at my age to be crabby? It's the only joy I have left in life. Don't say that, Dad, said the son, beginning to look worried. Here I am wobbling around here in constant pain. Dad, there are plenty of pain relievers. No, they'd love that dope up and push me into some corner somewhere. Let's proceed to big sleep with a lot of little ones, measuring my existence out with coffee spoons, like T.S. Eliot said. Listen, Dad, said the exasperated son, can't you be a little more pleasant? I mean, everyone has to be somewhere, and I have to be here, huh? I'm afraid so, Dad, said Jed sadly. Well, it's time for the big celebration. Here, let me help you into the chair, and I'll wheel you to the dining room. Don't worry, I'll pick up the walker later. As he pushed his dad down the hallway, Jed noticed that what he always did, the intense heat, the bright light, the blunted yet pervasive smell of urine, a long time ago his father had noticed, but not for some time now. Hey, Dad, I hear Polka Joe is going to be here. You're kidding, Polka Joe? Archie's mood elevated. What's the big deal with Polka Joe? Nothing. He just brings a record player and plays polkas and old time music. It's great because it takes my mind off things. You know, he gets us singing and we get to singing, and before you know, we remember and we forget. You know what I mean? Yeah, Dad. I do know what you mean. The serving ladies came to get Archie as they entered the dining hall. Here, we got a cake for you, Archie, exclaimed Mrs. Henry as she wheeled him into place at the head of the table. Residents began to file in and fill the surrounding tables. Old Poker Joe, big as a house, setting up his equipment in the corner, and then they all sang happy birthday. Well, Archie, asked Mrs. Henry, now that you're 80 years old, what do you have to say for yourself? Hell, said Archie. It ain't easy being green, if you know what I mean. And you know what? They did. Okay, well, enough preaching for one day, huh? Thank you for your kind attention, and we'll be back again soon.